Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
The wife asked to be added to her insurance, but the husband remained steadfast. Today's story with a similar plot. Enjoy it! Life sometimes throws a wrench into our plans. Maybe that's why I don't plan anymore. Before my divorce, I was always making plans at work. I strategically planned for everything that could go wrong in my department. In case of any unforeseen circumstances, I had a few backup plans in place. This morning, I received a call and was told that I needed to visit my ex-wife. I hadn't seen her in over a year and didn't really want to, but given that the request came from my daughter, I knew I would have to make the trip. My daughter, Samantha, Sammy as we call her, insisted on it. So, I got in the car, a vivid green Mustang Shelby GT500, and headed back to town. It took me almost an hour to make my way through the jammed highways to get to the hospital in town where Sammy had taken her mother. I parked in the visitor's lot, hoping I wouldn't have to stay long. When I contacted the helpline, I learned that my ex-wife Erica had been in the hospital for 2 days. A rather angry nurse smiled at me and showed me to her room. She told me I could come in and wait, but Erica was still sleeping. "What's with her?" I asked the nurse. "Your wife," she began. I interrupted her by raising my hand. "Ex-wife," I said. "Very, very ex-wife," I smiled. The nurse answered me with a smile. Then her face changed. "Dad, seriously? Aren't you flirting with the nurse while Mom is in the hospital?" said my daughter, standing over my shoulder. "Of course not, Sammy," I said. "If I was seriously flirting, I would at least ask." I looked at the nurse again. "Bonnie," she prompted. "Oh, this name suits, doesn't it? Bonnie means beautiful or something like that to the Scots or Irish." "She's a lovely girl, that one," I said the last part in my faux Scottish accent, which made Bonnie's smile widen. "Did you say that about me?" she asked. "Oh yes," I said. "Like I said, this name really suits you." My daughter chose that moment to interrupt our impromptu festival of smiles and separated us, pushing me into her mother's room. There were 4 beds in the room. This is perhaps the most depressing room I have ever been in, hospital or anywhere else. "It's terrible here, isn't it?" she asked. I shrugged. "How should I know?" I asked. "I have no reference point for comparison." "Dad, this is the ward," Sammy said. "They can place as many beds here as physically possible to squeeze in. It's noisy, sometimes it stinks, and Mom deserves better." I shrugged again. "Dad, she's only here because she doesn't have health insurance. Darren can't put her on her plan, the only person who could put her on his health plan." Her voice trailed off. I looked around, raising my arms to the sides with my palms up. "Who?" I asked. "I'm retired. I'm a consultant. I come in sometimes when they need advice on something, and since the company was generous enough to offer me a plan, I took it." "You could put Mom on your health plan," she said quietly. "Sammy, honey, I love you more than anything in this world. I would do almost anything for you. But you have to understand that your mother and I are divorced. I did everything the judge ordered the day we signed the papers. I took out a loan and wrote her a check. I did it so she could have every penny she was entitled to," I said. My daughter looked at me as if she was sure I was hiding something. "Honey, how many people do you know who are divorced who can say they got every penny they were entitled to, on time? You always hear about someone missing alimony or child support payments, right? I never missed one. I gave your mother everything that she was supposed to have, but not everything she wanted," Sammy said quietly. We stood at the end of the bed and looked at the woman sleeping in front of us. "You know she never wanted a divorce, didn't she?" Sammy asked quietly. "She still loves you, even after all this." "You know, Sammy, people in hell want ice," I said coldly, "but they're out there roasting because of something they did while they were alive. Your mother and I are divorced because of something she did while we were married." "Dad, I know what she did," Sammy said. "I was there when it all broke out, remember? And I know she was wrong. But I can't stop thinking that you still belong together. Dad, she loves you so much. Look at her. She's just fallen apart in the last 2 years. She doesn't look like a 50-year-old woman at all. 2 years ago, Mom was 48 and could have passed for 30. Today, she looks like she's in her 60s. Some people just don't age well, I said coldly. But maybe she needs to go out and do something to take care of herself. If she just lets herself continue to crumble like this, then what do you expect? Dad, she needs her husband back in her life, Sammy blurted out. She needs to feel loved and cared for. That's why she's so exhausted. Is that why you called me out of your warm bed? I asked in disbelief. You want me to find her a husband? Who the hell is he, Dad? Don't you have an ounce of compassion in your heart? Asked Samantha. Is this what you wanted? Is this what your fragile male ego needs, to see the woman you swore to love, respect, and cherish reduced to a shadow of her former self so you can know you won? Sammy, you don't know anything about compassion, I replied sharply. Remember what you're talking about and who you're talking about. I put up with her antics for years and remained married to her. I gave her plenty of chances, but she just couldn't let it go. You also have to consider that your loyalty to her almost cost you your own marriage. Samantha closed her eyes at that moment and nodded her head. I saw that she was thinking about it. At least 3 families were nearly destroyed, all in the balance due to the selfishness of 2 corrupt people, I said. Perhaps they belong together. I smiled a little as I said this, and Samantha's eyes widened. Dad, you don't mean it, she said. I shrugged. I looked at her and smiled. You're getting older too, she said. Dad, don't you want something more out of life than just driving that car too fast, traveling, and having a girlfriend for a week? I love my car. I've always loved Mustangs, I said. I also like to travel. And about the girl of the week, I've been dating Shelley for almost a year now. I have a slight preference for redheads, plus you introduced me to her. But Dad, she cried, don't you want someone to settle down with and enjoy life with on a more permanent basis? Been there, done that, I said sharply. I really thought I had found the right person. God, how I loved her. I loved her enough to put my pride aside and try to fix things even after I found out what she was doing. She just couldn't let it go. Dad, some women are capable of loving 2 men at the same time, Samantha said. And some men can't stand it, I said. The problem is, I'm just not one of them. Why am I here anyway, Dad? I've been here since we brought her here, Samantha said. I needed a chance to get home, shower, and change. It would be nice to see my husband again too. Darren was wonderful. He sat with her for a couple of hours yesterday to give me a break. But I couldn't ask him to do that again. He doesn't really love his mom. He got along fine with her until I left. It's unfinished, but now maybe it's not that he doesn't love her. Maybe he's just afraid that if you spend too much time with her, you'll become just like her. And he loves you, Sammy. Besides me, I can't think of anyone who would love you as much as he does. So, do you really love me, Daddy? She asked. Always have, always will, Angel, I said. Then why can't you be nicer to Mommy, for my sake? She asked. Why can't you just find it in your heart to at least be friendly with her? First of all, because sometimes I can't find my heart, I said sharply. She tore it out while it was still beating. Sammy's eyes widened at the bitterness and anger in my voice. I loved her, Sammy. I loved that woman for more years than you've been alive. When we were together, all I did was, I forced myself to calm down. No, Sammy. I can't be friends with her. I can't let the past go. There can't be any burying the hatchet unless I bury it in her forehead. I don't even know why I'm here right now, Dad, she asked. Have you gotten your revenge yet? You've already broken her spirit. What more do you want? Sammy, I didn't take revenge on your mother, I said. I left her alone. I just walked away. I know, Dad, she said. I still don't understand it. There are so many things that don't add up these past 2 years after the divorce. So many things that I can't understand. Like what? I asked. We split our assets in half, except for the house. It just doesn't make sense, she said. Mom didn't need all those things. She just wanted you. And it seems like you should have had a lot more money than you actually had. Our family's finances were checked by your mother's lawyer, I shrugged. So why are you driving a customized Mustang that my husband says costs at least $50,000 when Mom can't even afford a car? She asked. Maybe I have a better credit history, I said. Anyway, I'll sit here and play games on my iPad while she sleeps for a few hours. I'll give you a break, honey. I hope she doesn't wake up. If that happens, I'll call you right away. What's the point, Dad? She asked. Deal with her. Mom was diagnosed with severe symptoms of depression. She actually takes medication for it. For some reason, she swallowed all her pills at once. We had to pump her stomach. Plus, she wasn't eating as well as she should and was drinking too much alcohol. She's exhausted and dehydrated, and we still don't know if she swallowed all the pills by accident or if she was trying to do something, Sammy said. So chances are she won't even wake up, right? I asked, smiling. That's right, Sammy said. But Daddy, if she wakes up, please be good to her, for my sake, okay? Okay, Sammy, I said. My daughter kissed me on the cheek and left the room. I sat down on the chair next to the bed and took out my iPad. I started reading a book but quickly lost track as my thoughts wandered back to how it all started 2 years ago. We do strange things for our children. When Sammy was a little girl, she was always trying to cook and creating these strange mixtures of different types of candy. I love my daughter more than anything in the world, so whatever she made, I ate it and told her it was the best thing I've ever tasted. I remember her inviting her mother and me to her house for dinner. We had a pleasant evening. Samantha still didn't know how to cook, the roast was as dry as the Sahara Desert. I had a feeling Darren knew this too because he kept refilling my drink whenever my glass was half empty. It's a good thing I'm not much of a drinker, otherwise, this roast would have made me an alcoholic. It was a pleasant evening spent with family, the type you can't have too much of, or so I thought at first. I got to spend time with my grandson, named John, Samantha's 2-year-old son, who she and Darren decided to name after me. He was such a mischievous little boy. In his grandfather's eyes, he could do no wrong. The highlight of the evening was Sammy and Darren's announcement that she was pregnant again. Darren, what are you doing to my daughter to keep this going? I joked. We discussed the usual things people discuss when their children are expecting. Everything seemed to be going well. We even discussed what to name the new baby. We all agreed on the name Elizabeth after Darren's mom if it was a girl. I suggested Peter if it was a boy, after Darren's dad, which he really liked. And then it all went wrong. Well, you already have one grandchild named after you, darling, my wife, Erica, said. Why not let someone else name the grandson? What do you mean, honey? I asked, joking with her. Let me guess, you want to name him Erica if it's a girl and Eric if it's a boy, right? Actually, I was thinking about Randall, she said. We could call him Randy for short. Randall James Dillon sounds like a good name. It was as if all the warmth had disappeared from the room. Samantha turned around and looked at me. I don't know. I don't like it, she said. I like Dad's suggestion better. Don't you, Darren? Darren hadn't looked at me yet. He was still smiling, thinking about how happy his father would be to have a grandson named after him. He simply nodded. Erica reached out to take my hand, as she usually did, and I pulled away from her almost violently. Samantha hadn't noticed my expression yet. What do you think of this proposal, Dad? She asked. In the coldest tone I have ever used towards my daughter, I responded, I think if you call him that, it'll be just as big a damn mistake as the one your mother just made. Have you ever seen those scenes in movies or on TV where everyone at a party is having fun, people are dancing, music is playing, people are eating and drinking and laughing everywhere, and then someone does something really stupid, and everything suddenly stops? Usually, the music stops, and you hear the sound of a needle scratching on an old record at the same moment. Well, that was such a moment. For what seemed like an hour but was probably no more than a few seconds, no one said anything. Then Darren broke the silence in a diplomatic manner. He looked at his watch and said, Wow, I really need to get to bed. I have an early meeting tomorrow. Thanks for a great evening, Darren, I said. Love you, Sammy. I stood up and headed towards the door. As I opened the door, Samantha called out to me. "Dad, what's wrong with you?" she asked. "Are you forgetting something?" "Come here and hug me, Sammy," I said. "I need to get out of here. I can't even breathe." "I was talking about Mom," she chuckled. "I thought you didn't drink, Darren. What have you been filling my dad's glass with all night?" "It was Pepsi, honey," he said, "although I could use some alcohol right now." "What's the matter with you, John?" Erica came up. She reached for me again, and this time I moved away from her so obviously that everyone saw it. "We'll talk about it when we get home, honey," she said. "We won't do anything. I'm going back to my house. I have no idea what you're going to do or where you're going to go, but it's definitely not with me." Wait a minute, Dad," Samantha said. "Are you mad at Mom because you didn't like the name?" Erica's eyes widened because she suddenly realized that I knew. "No, honey," I said. "I'm not mad or angry at all. I just finally came to my senses. There are times when the people you love hurt you, and you just bear it. There are times when you remain silent for the sake of the world because you think that if you just wait out this little moment, everything will be better. But then something happens that shows you that you suffered and made concessions in vain. Sometimes, some things just can't be let go." Everyone in the room looked at me, except Erica. She already knew what I was talking about. "Dad, you don't speak clearly," Samantha said. "Sammy, your mother wants you to name my grandson after the man she's been in love with for the last 15 years or so, the one she had an affair with. She found out a couple of days ago that he recently died. She's trying so that his memory lives on in my grandson." Samantha and Darren looked at Erica, who had fallen to the floor and was sobbing quietly. "I'm so sorry, John," she said. "It's over. It ended over 5 years ago. I tried to be a better wife for you." "Why did it end, Erica?" I asked. "Because I felt guilty," she said. "I knew what I was doing was wrong, so I ended it." "Can't we talk about it?" I asked. "First of all, it wasn't an affair," she replied. "We only met once a year, and we didn't always have a night. And after I came home, you and I always had the best intim. It ended a long time ago, John. I love you." "We need to talk about this," I said sharply. "Maybe when the divorce is over, you'll tell someone the truth. But I'm tired of your lies." "What do you mean?" she asked. "I know, Erica. If you could, you would keep dating him," I said. "I told you, I finished it." "I did, John." "I'm sorry," she said. "I was wrong. I was confused. It was a mistake." "I'm sorry too, Erica," I said. "I was wrong too. I was confused too. I was wrong trying to save this damn marriage. I did it for Sammy. I didn't want her to suffer through our divorce until she was on her own. I was confused too. See, I thought that maybe, in time, since I loved you so much, we could get over this. I was wrong. Instead of ending this farce then, I actually tried to force it to work. But at least you were right, darling. You did end something. From the second you said his damn name that night, you ended our marriage." I left the house, got into the car, and drove away. I spent a lot of time that night just driving around. The roar of my Mustang and the thrill of driving fast in the dark of a moonlit night took away some of my pain. I turned off my phone so as not to be disturbed. Actually, I wasn't as upset as I might have thought. I knew about her behavior for more than 5 years, and all this time, I was preparing for divorce. Erica was probably most shocked by the fact that she was completely unaware of my knowledge of her scam. Secondly, because she only found out that night why it ended. She flew to Boston for a conference, the same one she went to every year. She booked a room at the hotel she always stayed at. The conference was a one-day workshop, which she always told me lasted 2 days. After the conference ended, she had dinner with Randall. They sat in the restaurant, talking to each other until the restaurant closed. She even mentioned me a couple of times. Then, when the restaurant closed, they exchanged a very pleasant kiss, and she returned to her room. Randall walked into the parking lot to his car to go home. When Randy walked up to his car, I was sitting on the hood. "Hey, this is my car," he said. "Sorry," I said. "It's wrong for people to touch things that don't belong to them, isn't it, Randy?" "I completely agree," he said. "Is this one of my wool caps?" "Yes," I said, smiling. I took it off myself. "But let's not talk about the caps, Randy. Let's talk about Mary, your wife who's waiting for you at home on Sycamore Street right now. It's probably too late for me to go see her now. I guess I should wait. See you tomorrow to visit her." "I'm calling the police," Randy said. I took out my phone and tried to hand it to him. "Randy, you can call the police whenever you want," I said. "It'll be my word against yours, and either way, you will lose. Because somehow in all of this, it will come out that you spent time with my wife, Erica, while your faithful little wife was waiting for you at home." Randy's face turned pale. "I'm not that type of guy," Randy said. "I think you made a mistake," I said. "I do know Erica, but we haven't spent time together," he said. He looked at me and saw how serious I was. "Okay, we had dinner together tonight. Some of the things we learned at the conference were interesting, and we both wanted to talk to someone about them. But that's it. Nothing happened, we just lost track of time." "Phew," I said. "You scared me." He smiled at me, as if he was glad that we had cleared everything up. I hit him in the face as hard as I could. He fell like a bowling pin. Then he rose to his feet and began to run. I threw his cap at him and hit him at the feet. He tripped over it and fell again. When I finished, both his eyes were blackened, his nose was broken, and his lip was split. "You really scared me, Randy," I said. "For a moment, I really thought I couldn't beat you up." "I know. You only had dinner tonight. What about last year or the year before? How long has this been going on?" "Maybe 15 or 20 years, he muttered through broken lips. "It's over, Randy," I said. He nodded quickly. "If you ever say her name again, I will destroy your marriage and your life. Do we understand each other?" He nodded again. "Don't visit her," I said. "Don't text her or even call her. There will be no more warnings." "I understand," he said. "Randy, next time we talk, it won't be so nice," I said. It looks like it worked. When I returned home, Erica was as usual after the conference. She tried to kill me with intimate, but I just didn't give in. Usually, after she returned from the conference, we went on vacation together. That year, I pretended I was too busy to leave. Despite my best efforts, I couldn't leave it all behind. Most of my brain was in Judas Priest mode. Okay, most of you don't know what I'm talking about. There's a heavy metal band called Judas Priest. Perhaps their best album is called Screaming for Vengeance. That's exactly how I felt. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't calm down. I wanted blood. I wanted someone to pay for my pain. If misery loves company, damn it, I wanted someone to suffer with me, and I chose Randy. Through some business connections, I arranged for his dismissal. I didn't do it openly. I didn't let him know it was me. It was enough for me to know about it. I felt great about it. I didn't have any regrets. It gave me the same warm feeling as when I did something good for Erica. While doing something evil to Randy, I spent the last 5 years of my life destroying it. At the same time, I was sure that a divorce from Erica was inevitable. Why didn't I confront her and file for divorce? Because despite what she did, I still loved her deep down. I really wanted to believe her and give her another chance, but my mind, just like at my job, told me to prepare for anything. I told Erica that we had a pay freeze at work when, in fact, I got a promotion. After a few months, I finally got the promotion I had been working for the last 10 years. I didn't tell Erica my salary almost doubled. I transferred most of the new income to accounts she knew nothing about. 2 years later, I received another promotion and another salary increase. Again, I didn't say anything to Erica. The reason for all this secrecy was that if we divorced, she would not have the slightest idea about my real income. She would actually believe that I still made $40,000 a year, so our divorce would be based on that. And I know that all the legal geniuses think that there is no chance of getting away with this with impunity. The first thing any good lawyer would do is ask for my tax returns and talk to my company's HR department to find out my salary. The thing is, my boss was absolutely devastated by his divorce, so he didn't see a problem in helping me. Officially, in the documents, I was listed as a middle manager. No one outside the company even questioned why all the other managers reported to me. It just seemed normal for our company. 3/4 of my actual salary was paid regularly to another company that, at first glance, looked like one of our suppliers. I was not one of the directors of this company and did not own it. All the directors of this company were my fishing friends. In exchange for using their names, I would take them fishing once or twice a year. They were all listed as volunteers, so there were no tax consequences for them. The money from this company went directly into my offshore account, so it was untraceable. After that, there were a couple of times when I withdrew some money. Once, after Samantha and Darren got married, I made a large down payment on their home to start their life together without much financial stress. I didn't buy them the house outright, but I contributed enough to keep their monthly mortgage payment under $100 a month. Another time, I bought Sam and Darren a second car because they were both working and their jobs were not in the same area of town. It just made their life easier. However, even when giving the children their gifts, I had to be careful. The way I was able to give them their house and second car actually worked in my favor and allowed me to give Erica even less money. The money for their house was allegedly taken from my pension package. This meant that in the event of a divorce, I would have almost nothing left in my retirement account for Erica to get her greedy hands on. To get the money for the car, I allegedly took out a loan, which further reduced my disposable income so that I could give Erica even less. One of the great things about my situation was that Randall worked in production. He specialized in casting inspection. My company was also a manufacturing company with many plants throughout the country. I had a private detective friend who lived in Boston. I asked him to check on Randy regularly. Every time he got a job, I told one of our account managers. If we had an account with the company where Randy worked, one of my friends would have lunch with someone who worked there, and Randy would be fired. If we didn't have an account with Randy's new company, we opened one, and then Randy was fired. I kept a spreadsheet on my computer dedicated to tracking Randy and all of his failures. Some of them I didn't even call. Over time, Randy's reputation in the manufacturing community became so bad that he couldn't even get a job interview. Right before Randy's death, his last jobs were landscaping or day labor. His failures also greatly damaged Randy's marriage. His wife returned to work to help support the family. I never touched her or her career because I had no complaints about her. I also tried to make sure that Randy's children got everything they were entitled to. I alone got Randy's daughter into law school. I came up with a scholarship specifically for her and awarded it to her. Of course, the scholarship ended the year she received her degree. The scholarship also transferred the full amount to the account. She was never able to find out where the money came from. Her grades were excellent, and she received several bonuses from her mysterious benefactors during her studies. The fact that he could not provide for his family and barely contributed to their upkeep took a huge toll on Randy's pride. He was a proud man and wanted to be self-sufficient and provide for his family. Discovering that he was neither was a blow to his pride. He started drinking, and over time, it became his obsession. To his credit, he never became aggressive or violent towards his wife or daughter, but by the end of his life, he was just a shadow of the man he once was. I also thought about how my actions changed me. I, too, was no longer the same person I was when I first found out about my wife's infidelity. I've always been a calm, friendly guy. I have been open and honest for most of my life. But the trauma of discovering that the woman I loved had betrayed me regularly and over time threw me off balance. When I looked in the mirror, I did not see a psychopath who could calmly and with pleasure plan and watch the systematic destruction of a man whose only mistake was having an intimate with the wrong woman. I still saw myself. I still saw John Forrest, a nice guy and family man. Shouldn't a villain have some recognizable characteristics? In the old days, all the bad guys wore black hats. Maybe I should trade my Mustang for a black one. But even as I thought about these things, I continued. I couldn't stop. My broken heart needed revenge more than healing. My soul screamed for revenge much more than for forgiveness. Even as I watched Randy's life fall apart, I watched Erica. I found that I could no longer trust her. It's a terrible feeling to not have faith in the woman you vowed to love and cherish forever, but that's exactly what her relationship with Randy did to me. She not only destroyed our marriage but also my ability to fully trust anyone. So for 5 years, while I was under Randy's thumb, I was also watching Erica and preparing for our divorce. Unlike most men who have a few days or maybe a few weeks to try to protect their assets, I had 5 years to prepare. I originally planned for more than this. Erica was, although in decline, still relatively attractive. When we divorced, I was going to wait until it subsided completely, but Randy didn't last as long as I thought. For 5 years, I hid and saved as much money as I could. I didn't have to worry about the house we lived in because it didn't belong to us. The house has been in my parents' family for several generations. We lived there because my parents, who were still alive, didn't need such a big place. When I was going through my divorce, I made sure that the lawyers knew that my parents owned the house and were just letting me live there for free. When Erica returned from the conference, she sent Randall a message about how much she enjoyed their dinner together and how wonderful it was to kiss him. She also told him that she missed the times when they made love but was glad that it didn't happen this year. She always felt guilty for cheating on me, just as he probably felt guilty towards his wife. She told him that what they have now, their romance without a night, is actually better because they can enjoy their relationship that way for the rest of their lives without guilt on either side. Maybe they are getting old and their love doesn't need physical expression, just being together is enough. This way, they will be together forever. She ended the message with "Until next year, my love." I read this message while waiting for my luggage at the airport. I wanted to strangle Erica, and although I still loved her to some extent, my feelings for her had changed dramatically. Sometimes I found it difficult to keep everything together. When Erica came home, I was sitting in the living room watching a football game. She came up and hugged me, trying to kiss me. I moved away from her and told her that I had a cold and didn't want to infect her. "Just make sure we're both okay by this weekend," she said, smiling. "Why? What's this weekend?" I asked. "You and I are going on vacation together," she said. "Remember, we always go after my boring conference. Maybe you could take a mother-daughter trip this year," I said. "I really can't take off work this weekend," I replied. "But honey, it's the weekend," she cried. "You'll only have to miss 2 days of work. Think about it, 4 nights and 3 days in Hawaii. It'll just be the two of us. We might not even leave the hotel room. I bought a lot of naughty things to wear for you," she continued. I wondered how many of these things Randy would have seen if they had met earlier. "Erica, we're under a wage freeze, and the company is trying to cut costs in any way possible. I need to make sure they never think I'm one of the expenses they could cut," I explained. "I understand, dear," she said. "I'll call Sam. I want you in the bedroom 10 minutes after I get upstairs." Later, she came upstairs and I heard her talking on the phone to my daughter Samantha. At the same time, she sent Randall another message wondering if he had received her previous message. It just disgusted me. When I didn't come to the bedroom, she came looking for me. I dove onto the couch and pretended to be asleep. Over the next few weeks, I came to my senses. It was a big restructuring. I have become a much better actor than I ever imagined. We still had an intim about as regularly as before. I don't know if Erica enjoyed it as much as before, but I definitely didn't. I didn't need to concentrate on her anymore because I didn't care. I had to look at things from a completely different perspective. Instead of thinking of Erica as my wife whom I loved, I simply saw her as a woman with whom I had a night. It was accessible night, and she was available. Our intim became rougher and less loving, but at the same time, it became more adventurous. Erica has always been quite conservative when it comes to intimate. During the guilt period immediately after the conference when she needed to convince me that she was mine, she rarely denied me anything. The next year, when it came time for the conference, I watched her carefully for signs that she had contacted Randall. I checked her phone account online to make sure she hadn't received any calls from Boston. There were no calls, but she sent a few messages to Randall's phone. She became increasingly upset that Randall was not responding to her messages. She tried to contact him through friends. Friends told her he didn't remember her. He remembered, but he was afraid. He knew that if he answered, I would either kill him or worse, tell his wife and ruin his marriage. So you know it's over, she said, smiling. How do I know? I asked. The last thing you sent him was 5 years ago, a message saying that your love would last until one of you died. That was only 5 years ago. Oh, wait, he actually died. No, right? But maybe you really weren't lying after everything. You loved him enough to try to get Sam to name my grandson after him, even though it cost you our marriage. No, John, you don't understand, she said. You chose to hurt me instead. John, how are you? She inquired. This went on for over 20 years. In those same 20 years, you and I probably had an intim literally over 2,000 times, and I enjoyed every time, I said. There could have been a maximum of 8 times in total with Randall, and each time I remember was terrible, she said. If it had been a case of me putting Randall above you, I would have understood. But that never happened. If it had been a case of me giving you leftovers or doing something to shame you, I would have understood. But that never happened. I love you too much for that. It was a once-a-year thing that happened so far from where we live that no one who knows us would be around, so no shame for you. Even in the year you beat up poor Randy and ended it, that in itself was ending. Since you know about my messages to him, you probably also know that we talked at dinner about how it's better that we don't have an intim anymore, just enjoy each other's company. This relationship would have ended soon anyway. I was never going to have a night with him again, she continued. That's what I meant when I said we were better without feeling guilt. I just tried to gently reject him. I thought that next year, we wouldn't even have dinner together. And the year after, I wouldn't go at all. I would change my phone number, and it would all be over. No one would ever know what happened. Just like you at the car show when the models take pictures while sitting in your Mustang, it would only be a pleasant memory in old age. You beat up a good guy for nothing, John, she said. He never was a threat to us. He was only a threat to your ego. I wanted to name our grandson after Randall, she explained, not because he was someone I was in love with, but as a last memory of a special friend. A tear rolled down Erica's cheek. I started applauding, I said. Great speech, Erica. You must have been rehearsing it the whole time we were apart. Sammy, you can name the boy Randall James if you want, I added. Randall James Dillon would make your mother very happy. Dad, Sammy replied solemnly, we'll name him Marshall, after Darren's grandfather. Marshall Dillon, that's his name. There's no way I'm going to name my son after that man, no matter what Mom thinks, Samantha said. Well, honey, at least you understand now, Erica said. I wish you had, Erica, I said. It really hurt me because I loved you more than anyone in my life before. I loved you too much to ever want to share you with anyone else. It hurt me because, despite everything you say, a married woman who sleeps with another man even once is rejecting her marriage. I know there are people who say that just because it happened once, it's not a reason to break up. I'm not one of them, and this happened more than once. You had a long-term affair for several years. You deceived me, misled me, and broke our marriage vows. Even today, I simply do not trust you. I often follow you to make sure you do what you tell me to do. You have damaged our marriage in ways that even now have not yet surfaced. Erica, how long have I had the Mustang I'm driving now, and what's special about it? I asked. It has more horsepower, she said. Besides? I asked. She looked puzzled. You've never let me in it, I snapped. I've had this car for almost 4 years, and you've never touched the seat. Even if we go out together, we take your car or SUV. I don't trust you, and I don't want you in my car, just like I don't want you in my heart. Erica began to cry. What can I do to fix this? It's been 5 years since it ended, isn't it fair, John? Okay, let's be fair, I said. What if I go out and meet someone and have fun with them periodically for the next 20 or 30 years? John, I won't like this, and 2 wrongs don't make a right, she replied sharply. I didn't think you'd like it, Erica, I said. So if we're done, there's a card on the table with my lawyer's contact information on it. Give it to your boyfriend when you find him. Please try to find someone quickly. I don't want this to take any longer than it needs to. John, I don't want a divorce, she cried. It's been 5 years since it all ended. Samantha, get her out of here before I have to do anything unpleasant, I said. Samantha grabbed her mother's hand and pulled her towards the door. In the days following our confrontation, Erica did her best to talk to me. Often, our daughter and son-in-law had to mediate because I no longer had the desire to talk to her. I tried to explain to her that she had the opportunity to speak out and have her say, but I remained adamant. What neither of us realized was that while Erica was staying with Samantha and Darren, it was also affecting their relationship. Erica cried a lot, which made Samantha, who always comforted her and stroked her feathers, the one she talked to the most. For several weeks, Erica's influence seemed to be affecting Sammy. She even told me about it one day. I was having dinner with Sam and Darren when it happened. I invited them to explain that although Erica and I would no longer be together, my feelings and relationship with the children would remain the same. I will still visit them, and we will still go out together. There will be no need to choose who can or cannot attend certain events for fear of upsetting someone. Dad, there's absolutely no chance that you and Mom can work things out? Sammy asked. I don't think so, honey, I told her. But why, Dad? She asked. Mom loves you so much, and she didn't do this very often. It was less than once a year if you average it. It turns out that, at the age of 3, she actually slept with that guy compared to how often I slept with a pillow over my head as a child. It really doesn't mean much. Can't you just... That's enough, Sam, Darren said sharply. Darren was a quiet guy, he rarely spoke much, but this time he was decisive. What if it was me? He asked. What if I started sleeping with my secretary every now and then? Not every day, just once a month or once every couple of months. What if you didn't find out about this until we were both 50? Would you like it? Would it hurt less since it didn't happen that often? Would that mean it was right, or at least not that bad? Samantha looked at him seriously. You don't do that, do you? She asked quietly. Well, she's younger than us, and she's beautiful, Darren said. I was beautiful too until you started filling me with your children, Samantha replied sharply. So just because I've gained a few extra pounds and my stomach isn't that flat, gives you the right to start cheating on me with Tammy? God, Sam, it won't be forever. Eventually, she won't be beautiful either, then I'll start being faithful to you again, Darren said. Samantha's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Sam. I love you very much. So, I wanted you to know. Samantha stood up, and Darren grabbed her hand. Sammy, I'm sorry, he said. I have not and will never sleep with Tammy or anyone other than you. You are still beautiful to me. You are the most beautiful woman on the planet. But I wanted you to know something. I understand how your dad felt, and it must have been a lot worse for him because it went on a lot longer, and they were married longer. I'm so sorry, Dad, Sam said. I guess I listened to my mom too much. She somehow convinced me that what she did wasn't that bad, and no one wants to see their mom cry, so I just put your feelings out of my mind. Besides, honey, there's another fact. Your dad actually gave her a second chance when he ended that affair. He didn't even mention it to her. He didn't make her feel guilty or punish her. He was trying to give her a clean slate. But she couldn't let go of her feelings for that guy. Do you understand how much pain that must have caused him over the years? Think about how much he loves our children, his grandchildren. Can you imagine that your grandson is named after the man your wife betrayed you with? Your mom either doesn't respect your dad completely or thinks he's stupid. Even suggesting it was a slap in the face. I know my opinion doesn't mean much here, but I think your dad is right. I'm not a big fan of the influence your mom has on you either. Erica didn't take it easy. She fought for the divorce tooth and nail. As usual, she tried to be smarter than everyone else. She called me at work to tell me that she had found her lawyer and would bring his contact information. She stopped at the house on her way to a date that evening. Erica, you don't have to do this, I said. Why ruin your date? Why not just dictate the information to me over the phone or give your lawyer a card with my lawyer's information written on it? I don't have it now, she said. I just remembered to call you. I'm at the beauty salon getting ready for a date, but when I get home, I'll take the card and do what you said. So, I should call my lawyer and tell him you'll call him in about 10 minutes? I asked. Why 10 minutes later? She asked. You said you were putting on makeup. You've always been beautiful, Erica, so there's no reason for you to spend more than 5 or 10 minutes in a beauty salon. They can't improve on what's already perfect, I said. I have to go, she said. I was sure she was crying again. A few minutes later, my phone rang again. I answered. Dad, I know she's wrong, but why do you have to make her cry all the time? Isn't divorce enough? Asked Samantha. Samantha, what are you talking about? I asked. Mom just got off the phone and started crying. She said I checked the last call number, and it was you, Samantha explained. I recounted the entire conversation over the phone to Samantha, and she apologized. Dad, she wasn't at the beauty salon, and as far as I know, she wasn't on a date. Mom was just trying to play with you. I think she was trying to make you jealous. Do you really think Mom is beautiful? Samantha asked. I always thought that her personality and her were the two things I loved about your mom the most, I said. I know you don't see that most people never see their parents that way. But your mom really is a very beautiful, very nicely woman, and I loved her so much. I guess that's why I got so mad at that Randy guy. He tried to take away the person who gave my life meaning. Then, Dad, why don't you give her another chance? Samantha asked. Because, honey, I did. It was the worst 5 years of my life. Every time she left the house, I wondered where she was going and who she was seeing. If she could have an affair on the other side of the country, why couldn't she have it here without me knowing about it? I asked. I love your mom, but I can't trust her. Remember that night at the restaurant? Remember when Darren told you about sleeping with his secretary? Tell me you haven't thought about it since then. Even after he told you that it never happened and will never happen, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? I said. Well, the difference for me is that I don't have to guess. Your mother really cheated on me, and it wasn't a one-time occurrence. This happened for a very long time. She could have stopped at any time if she wanted. She chose to continue it until I ended it for her. If I had not done this, despite what she said, I'd probably still be sleeping with that guy. Erica's lawyer insisted on consultations. My lawyer insisted that I visit them, so I did. For the first 2 weeks, I took magazines with me to read during the sessions. The doctor asked me why I refused to participate. I told him he was beating a dead horse. The court could force me to come to sessions, but they couldn't change the way I felt. They could talk about feelings, reasons, and forgiveness until they were blue in the face, but they couldn't force me to stay married to Erica. So, I was willing to jump through all these hoops and all this, but I wasn't going to stay married to her. In the end, it took 8 months. It was almost 3 times longer than it should have been. Erica's lawyer carefully reviewed my work records. He was very suspicious. His records are too perfect, he said. They're too carefully prepared, too well executed. It's like he expected this to happen. Luckily, he found everything he needed to find and didn't look for anything else. He was still able to convince the judge that the house, although it did not belong to me, was still an asset since I did not pay to live in it. All I did was pay my property taxes every year. So, he calculated the average amount I would spend on a mortgage or rent for a similar home. He added half of this value to the amount and gave it to Erica. In addition, I had to pay her alimony of $400 a month for 3 years. As I mentioned earlier, I did the math and wrote Erica a check. When she asked me where I got the money from, I told her I took out a loan. I'll just make regular payments to the bank every month. Instead of paying her, I didn't want to see her or deal with her for a long time. As soon as we left the court with the documents signed, I went on the first of several vacations. I went on a cruise because I had never been on one before. It was too early for me. Most of us have seen those movies or TV shows where everyone on a cruise ends up meeting someone and making a lot of new friends, right? I didn't meet a single person and spent the entire cruise in my cabin. Every time any woman looked at me, I ran away. Like I said, it was too early. My next vacation was a trip out west to what they used to call the Cubs Ranch. It was a disaster too. There were too many guys on the trip. I think some of them thought it was some kind of Brokeback Mountain story. The last vacation I took was called the Route 66 cruise. It was a car ride from Chicago to Los Angeles, one long cruise along historic Route 66. There were all sorts of cars from classics to modern muscle cars. The organizers had arranged various travel packages to suit all budgets and preferences. There were options for those who wanted to spend the night in tents along the way and for those who preferred the comfort of hotels or motels. Both groups were invited to parties and events every evening, as well as dinners at restaurants and eateries along Route 66. I saw this as an opportunity to get to know my car better. I started thinking of my Mustang as my girlfriend. When I started the ride, it was just me, my Mustang, and my music. It was an opportunity to reflect as I drove each day and really start to think about what I wanted to do for the next 20 or 30 years of my life. Most of all, I needed to figure out what I would do without Erica. Because even though I knew that my life would truly be better without her, my heart still ached for her. I was wrong again. I guess I saw myself as some kind of lost and lonely divorced guy trying to find his way alone in a new and difficult world. Nothing could be further from the truth. I wasn't alone, I was with my people. Wherever you are in the world, there are thousands of us, and when we come together, it is wonderful. Each of us is sure that the car he loves is the best example of automotive art ever created. I started off trying to stay away from the crowd while listening to the announcements before we set off. I was never allowed to be lonely or feel lonely unless I went to bed. "Hey buddy, your Mustang is damn handsome," said one old man. I had one before. I realized that God meant for this old man to drive Corvettes, but he wasn't like making yours. "How much horsepower does your car make?" Everywhere we went, at every stop or during every meal, 1 to 5 of my new friends would join me and engage in conversation with me about our common interests or differences. There were guys looking to engage me in a conversation about whether I believed foreign cars should be allowed to cruise the classic American road. I told them, we need to stop fighting. Cars are cars, there's enough space for everyone. Most people at the table agreed with me. This prompted one old man to stand up and declare that I was right. All car fans must unite to get rid of our real enemy, motorcyclists, who are the scum of society. Naturally, I also exited this conversation. I also met some really nice women on the cruise. There were women who were as passionate about their cars as any man. There was even one woman on the cruise who divorced her husband because he wanted to drive her car. He told all his friends that her classic '69 Camaro was his, and he would let her drive it sometimes. Things got interesting when some guys came over to their house and found her leaning over the hood, changing the oil. The real owner of the car came out, and her husband was so ashamed that he told her she had to choose between him and the car. She hasn't seen him since then. I met a lot of women on the cruise that I thought would be great to be friends with, but I wasn't looking to replace Erica at the time. However, it made me realize that there is life after her, and maybe one day I will have a life partner again. I returned home with a completely different mood. I no longer felt depressed and alone, and I loved my Mustang at least twice as much. That's when I first encountered Erica again. We both attended our mutual friend's wedding. This was her second marriage, her first real one as she called it, and she did everything at the highest level. The most shocking thing for me was seeing Erica. She had always been beautiful to me, but seeing her there made me question my eyesight and sanity. Erica had changed in the year since we separated. She was skinny, and her face looked gaunt. Her hair was styled so that it looked like it was stuck to her head. She had a somewhat permanently sullen expression on her face, and she had bags under her eyes. I stood and looked at her until I felt someone push me in the side. "Go up to her and say something nice, Dad," Samantha said next to me. "And then I need to ask you a favor." I forced my legs to cross the room. "Hi Erica," I began, "you've lost weight. Is this a new hairstyle?" She turned around so quickly when she heard my voice that I thought her neck would come off. Her eyes lit up too. "Do you like it?" she asked, smiling. "All the women on TV are on a diet," I tried. I didn't want to become one of those old ladies whose butt gets bigger because they're less active. "Erica, you have always been beautiful to me," I said. "I think you should pay less attention to fashion trends and more to what you feel. I'm sure your hairstyle was expensive and very fashionable, but I always loved your long, flowing hair. It framed your face beautifully, brought attention to your best features like your eyes and those dimples. Erica's smile lit up her face again. And I know we're not married anymore, so maybe I'm a little harsh telling you this, but stop dieting. Don't worry about your 5th place getting bigger, because I've always loved it that way. I'm sure whoever is with you next will agree with me. Women with curves are simply better. Throw out the salad and get yourself a burger. If anyone could ignore fashion trends and diets, it has always been you, dear. When I walked away to talk to someone else, Erica was still staring after me, seemingly stunned. For the rest of the time I was there, she kept trying to get closer to me again. I avoided her without making it obvious. The next day, I talked to my daughter on the phone. Dad, you were wonderful at the wedding. Mom is happier than I've seen her since you separated. She ate more food last night than she did in the 3 days before. I asked her why, and she said, my father will probably love me more if I have breasts again. Exactly what did you tell her? I don't remember saying anything about her breasts, I said. I just told her that she's always been beautiful to me and maybe she shouldn't worry so much about dieting. Damn, Sammy, your mom is 50 like me. She doesn't need to be skinny. Even a dog needs a little meat on his bones. Whatever, Dad, Sammy said. I need your help. I looked at her wearily. Relax, Dad, she chuckled. This has nothing to do with Mom. I have a friend who is trying to get a degree. She is terrible at math and needs to pass both algebra and trigonometry. I remember how great you were at tutoring me when I was going through high school and college. Don't they have tutors? I asked. Dad, this is an unusual situation, Samantha said. First of all, she's older, but not as old as you. She works nights, so she can't get to many of her tutoring sessions. And Shelley is a really unusual person. Can you at least try this for me? Besides, you don't have much to do anyway. So I went to meet my daughter's friend. She had red hair, and at first, I thought she was fat. Samantha told me that the woman had a deformity and self-esteem issues. She was very reserved and seemed unsure of herself. On that warm day, when we met at a downtown Starbucks, she brought her book, and I began to explain to her some of the things she didn't understand from the chapter their class was working on. Unfortunately, she also had trouble understanding the previous material, so I decided that we should probably go back a couple of chapters and really work on improving her understanding of the core concepts, and then try to catch up with the class. She agreed, and we scheduled several tutoring sessions throughout the week. For some reason, she started to really like me, and I began to wonder how her deformity, whatever it was affecting her. The next time we met, still at Starbucks, we had been working for about 3 hours, and she lost her temper a little. This went on for several weeks, and we became more and more comfortable with each other. I often lost track of the conversation or fell asleep looking into her eyes while we were talking. Finally, one day, before a Thursday afternoon class, weekend, I asked her if she would like to come to my house. The days were getting warmer, I told her, and we could do 2 sessions on a Saturday afternoon before you had to go to work, and you would be more comfortable and wouldn't have to wear a coat. She looked at me and smiled. I would really like to study at your home, she said, not sure about the coat. I wear my coat for my safety and yours, Shelley. I will never look at you in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, I said. You should know this by now. You can't help the way you were born. Deformities are nothing to laugh about, but there's nothing to be ashamed of either. She started laughing. Who told you I'm deformed? She asked. Samantha said, I replied. Mr. Forrest. Samantha was being ironic, I said. I'm not really deformed, other than how you look at it. I guess I'm just fat, then. There's no problem, I said. Oh, yes, there's a problem, she said. Listen, do you have a computer? I just looked at her strangely. Google Mel Malloy, she said. Look at the video. I have the same problem. I'll call you tomorrow, and we'll decide what we'll do on Saturday. As she walked away from the table, she touched my arm, and I knew I had a problem. This woman could not be older than 30. Compared to me, she was a child. When I got home, there were 10 messages on my voicemail. They were all from Erica. We divorced almost a year ago. I couldn't understand why she suddenly wanted to talk. The phone rang again, and I expected it to be her, but luckily it was Samantha. "Dad, everything is ruined and it's my fault," she asked me. "Wait, honey," I said. "What are you talking about?" "Mom," she said. "Remember at the wedding when I made you say nice things to your mom? Well, she went crazy. She started eating again and did her hair the way she thought you liked it. She thinks she can get you back, and it's my fault. Then Dad, I don't know what happened between you, but I think you like Shelley. I know she's too young for you and that she's different, but Dad, she's a really good person. So, do whatever you need to do to let her go gently. She has self-esteem issues, and you don't even want to know what she does at work." I didn't want to make a mistake with Erica. I was glad she came out of her depression, but I couldn't imagine being with her again. Too much water has flowed under the bridge between us. On the other hand, Shelley intrigued me. What the hell could possibly make Shelley interested in me? Shelley's face was beautiful. Often, when we were studying, while she was solving a problem, I would find myself lost in her gaze. She had the most wonderful smile, her lips were plump, and I wondered what it would be like to not only kiss them but to gently bite those lips. I think my life will always be a cycle of plenty and famine. For almost a year, I had not met or even spoken to any women other than those I had met while traveling along Route 66, and now 2 women were showing interest in me, one I didn't want and one I couldn't have. While I was thinking about my problem, I turned on the computer. I went to Google and typed in the name Shelley had mentioned. I received a bunch of results and a lot of questions. I saw a lot of terms that I simply did not understand. What the hell is POG? I watched one of the videos. It appeared to be a vlog of a woman trying to lose weight. The woman in the video was really nice. She looked a little like Shelley, but I could tell it wasn't her. The hair was not the same, and the facial features were also different. Was Shelley trying to tell me she needed to lose weight? Was this a problem? If that were the case, it wouldn't bother me at all. I started by watching some of the earlier videos in the series, but after a few videos, my eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The only one who thought this woman was fat was herself. She was amazingly curvy, no man would ever call her fat. She had the most perfect figure and curves you can imagine. She had generous breasts and an extremely small waist that simply flared out to form the most incredible physique. As her videos progressed, she talked less and less about dieting and weight loss. As thousands of men began contacting her and asking to see more of her body, her videos became more and more filled with scenes where she wore less and less clothing. The fewer clothes she wore, the more spectators she attracted. I was shocked. I didn't even think when I automatically picked up the phone on the first ring. "John, would you like to come over for dinner to see your daughter, son-in-law, and grandkids? I'm going to cook the roast just the way you like it, with carrots and potatoes," Erica asked. I didn't know how to answer. I had always told everyone that I wanted us to be comfortable. I didn't want the kids to feel awkward inviting both of us, so I said okay. I went there thinking it would be a relaxed family dinner. When I arrived, Darren was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. We chatted for a bit, and then Erica came down the stairs. She was dressed to the nines, wearing a new dress that showed off her legs. In the week since the wedding, she had gained several kilograms. She wasn't back to her normal weight yet, but she looked healthier. Her hair was down and flowing freely. She looked much better than at the wedding, with less makeup and natural hair. She smiled at me and sat down next to me. "The roast will be ready in 20 minutes, she said. "Sammy is upstairs trying to give your grandchildren a bath." She grabbed my hand and just looked at me. At this point, Darren decided to check the wine for dinner. "Will we have wine?" I asked. That's how the whole evening went. I constantly found myself alone with Erica, who smiled at me. The food was really good. When you're used to having someone cook for you most of your life and that suddenly stops, you start to appreciate it even more. It made me think of the last time the 4 of us ate roast together. That was the time Samantha nearly killed us with her dry fries, and Erica suggested naming our grandson after Randy, which led to our divorce. After dinner, Samantha got up to wash the dishes. Darren decided to help her, so Erica suggested I go for a walk or sit out on the porch. If we were at home, we would go out on our veranda, she said. It seems like it happened in another life, but only a year has passed. It really seems like a long time ago, I said. John, have you had a night since our divorce? She asked. Of course, I said. Many times. Oh, she said sadly. I think I deserve this to happen to me. What happened to you? She asked. I haven't had a night with anyone since the last time, like you and I, she said. I don't think I even tried to find someone. So you're just having fun with a bunch of women or? No, I said. I'm in a relationship. I smiled. She looked down at her feet. I thought for a second that she was going to cry. So who is this lucky girl? She asked. It's not a lady, I chuckled. She looked shocked. Who are you having an intim with? She asked. With you, Erica, I chuckled. What did you expect? I said. We were married a long time, and I loved you like there was no tomorrow. It would take me a while before I could just get up and start having a night with someone. It would take me a while to get over you. It will take time to find someone to create new memories with, to block out the memories of our last years together. Why would you block them? She asked. It's been a wonderful few years, John. These have been great years for you, Erica, I said. It was torture for me. You knew that I loved you more than anything in the world, but all I knew was that you deceived me for a long time. All I knew was that you betrayed me in the worst way, over and over again. You knew that I belonged to you. I knew that I had to share you with someone else sometimes, and in those moments, he was obviously more important to you than me. It wasn't like that, John. It was never like that, she said. You still don't see it, right? There was never anyone else for me. I loved you as much as you loved me. I still do. I just slept with Randy a few times. Randy is dead, John. There's no reason to even talk about him, she said. You're right, I said. But if you know this, why did you mention it? I didn't mention him, she said. I started by asking if you had an intim with someone, and it turned into an argument like usual. I just wanted to know something. I wanted to ask you a question, and the conversation went wrong. Then let's talk about something else, I said. Or maybe it's still too early. Maybe we shouldn't talk. Maybe we should just look at it like we had a wonderful evening with our kids and leave it at that. Maybe I'll see you again sometime in the future. It wasn't that bad. We were able to get through dinner before we started arguing. That's a good sign for the future. She nodded her head, but her face did not express agreement. Her eyes were narrow as if she was fighting to hold back tears. It's a beautiful night, I said, changing the subject. You know what would make it better? She asked quietly. Cold beer, I said. I was thinking rather about, we went to your place and had a night, she said. I choked and had to take a few deep breaths. Erica, neither of the boys would like this, and their grandmother wouldn't approve either, I said. Why wouldn't I approve? Asked Erica. I'd love to. After all these months of you dating and even living in our house with that blow-up doll, you better be ready for more than just a kiss when I get out of here. I wasn't talking about you, I said. You said their grandmother, Erica snapped. I know. You're not thinking about moving in with Darren's mom. His dad only died 2 months ago, and I don't remember you being particularly happy about her. No, I was talking about Grandma, the blow-up doll as you called her. When Shelley and I get married, she'll be their grandma too, I said. Shelley and Erica both looked shocked. But, Dad, Shelley is barely older than me. She can't be my stepmother, Samantha interjected. The main reason I brought you together was because at that point in your lives, you both needed someone to help you relieve the pain. It wasn't meant to be permanent, I explained. Well, you did too good a job because I love Shelley. She loves me, and we're committed. We're also going to be parents, so Sammy, you're going to be a sister, and the boys are going to have an aunt or uncle. I don't know who you'll be, Erica. Maybe you'll be their ex-grandmother or step-grandmother or something like that. I guess we'll figure it out as we go. Is this part of your revenge? Asked Erica. Is this all because of this? You beat up Randy, but you never did anything to me, so now you got this girl pregnant to hurt me? Because you wanted to hurt me as much as you think I did to you? She sat up on the bed. Do you really understand how bad this is? She flared up. You could be stuck with her for the rest of your life, at least until the child becomes an adult. Did you really need your revenge that much? Erica, stop thinking only about yourself, I replied sharply. When I found out about you and Randy, I really beat him up. That's not all I did to him. The rest is best left behind the scenes. Then I thought I was screaming for revenge, but revenge left me unsatisfied. When he died, I thought it was because I took revenge on the wrong person. After all, Randy didn't betray me, you did. Randy didn't promise to have an intimate with me exclusively. I couldn't hit you, Erica, or do anything to you, but I could stay with a woman I didn't trust. Our divorce wasn't some kind of act of revenge, I just couldn't live with a woman I didn't trust. It took me a while to realize that I wasn't screaming about revenge, I was screaming about love. And I found it with Shelley. I'm glad you're okay, Erica, I said. If it was some kind of trick to get me to come to the hospital and see you so we could be together again, it was in vain. But you were both invited to the wedding. I left the hospital feeling much better than when I arrived. As the door closed, I heard them arguing about who would pay the hospital bill. It didn't matter, but I knew it wouldn't be me. What do you think of our story today? In my opinion, my husband was completely right when he refused to add his ex to his insurance because she had been having an affair with someone else for a long time. What's your opinion? Write in the comments. See you in the comments.